Hello and welcome. Today I'm just going to be going through and explaining the differences between a normal tendon and an aged tendon and all of the mechanical properties of each of them. So just before we start, I'll just give a quick definition on tendons. So tendons, their main role is to attach the muscle to the bone. So that in doing this, they provide joint stability, flexibility and movement. Okay, so just moving on to a normal tendon just to begin with, they're composed of a good amount of collagen fibres. So these collagen fibres are in a parallel format, which then would increase the strength of the tendon. In addition to this, the fibres are arranged with covalent cross-links, meaning that they cross over one another. These covalent cross-links provide strength and also stiffness to the tendons. So this obviously would then decrease the risk of a tendon snapping and then help it perform its functions correctly. Moving on, our typical tendons, or our normal tendons, they are known to have a high Young's modulus, which we will then go through and explain furthermore once we get to our aged tendon and then furthermore in our graphs around stress and strain moving forward. In addition to this, a normal tendon will have a high elastin content, or not a high elastin content, just a relative elastin content, as although a tendon isn't generally supposed to move and be very elastic too often, having that elastability, as it says here, will therefore just make it a lot more effective in joint movement and allowing that to do so it's not just rock solid all the time, it still has that little room for movement.
Allow me to demonstrate a brief description of the components and structure of a tendon. The tendon unit as a whole is constructed of bundles of smaller units, which are constructed of bundles of smaller units, and so on. For example, a group of primary fibres becomes a primary fibre bundle, also known as subfascicles. Then a group of subfascicles becomes a secondary fibre bundle, also known as fascicles. A group of fascicles become a tertiary fibre bundle, and a group of tertiary fibre bundles become the full tendon. These bundles are able to glide around against one another due to each bundle being wrapped in a layer of connecting tissue known as endotendon. Similar to the endotendon, the epitendon is another layer of thin tissue that wraps around the tendon unit as a whole. Alongside the paratendon, which allows tendons to move smoothly around other internal structures. That is the basic description of how a typical tendon is composed.
Moving forward, our aged tendons, obviously they're a little bit different to our normal tendons. As we age and our bodies change and all that sort of stuff, so do our tendons. And so that is first and foremost comes about due to the collagen fibres that we mentioned over here. So with our aged tendons, our collagen fibres decrease, and because of this, there's a lot of a decreased strength and stability of these fibres just from the get-go. Moving forward to our covalent crosslinks, as we previously mentioned as well, these, instead of becoming just really locked in place, as they are in the typical tendons, they become very disorganised. And this disorganisation they pretty much just form in clumps and just all over the shop. So this increases the susceptibility to failure of the tendon as a whole, as it is much more likely to find a weak spot and then just fail essentially. And yeah, this is due to the fact that the strength and the stability of a tendon as a whole is significantly decreased. The Young's modulus, again, is mentioned, and as it is much further decreased than a typical tendon. So yeah, as previously mentioned, I will go through that further once we do our graphs on stress and strain moving forward. A decrease in water content was something that wasn't mentioned in the normal tendon. As the normal tendon has just a relatively okay water content, this is, as mentioned, decrease in an H tendon. And the water content has a big impact on the Young's modulus, which I'll once again go through later on, as it decreases the stiffness of the tendon. So this decreased stiffness therefore will provide an increased chance that the tendon will fail again. And finally, just on the elastin content, the elastin does again decrease as we age, providing a less elasticity of the tendon, therefore providing it more susceptible to failure as well.
On a macroscopic level, there are a few differences between the structure of the tendon as we age. The primary change that does occur is a degeneration of some of the extracellular matrix and the collagen fibers that make up a tendon. These collagen fibers and the rest of the extracellular matrix contribute to the strength and the stability of the tendon. It is noted that there are a change in number and also the productivity of these components of the tendon. In saying this, however, there is no known alteration of a tendon's size, surface area, or thickness as we age.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll go over to our graph here on stress and strain. Stress here measured in our force over metres squared, and strain just as a percentage. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a normal tendon here to start with. So the normal tendon will look something like this. We'll have a normal regular toe point here before having a very high Young's modulus, plateauing at the top, and then a rapid failure point. So there's our failure point there, and there's our yield point. And then this section in here is known as our Young's modulus. So as we can see from this section, the amount of stress that the tendon is able to bear before reaching this failure point is at quite a high level. And this will be put on display once I illustrate the H tendon. So our H tendon here starts off at the same stage but a lot lower. Young's modulus reaches about here before plateauing, and then once again reaching a failure. So this is our failure point here, and this is our yield point. So as we can see from this information, the Young's modulus, as previously mentioned over on the other side from a normal tendon, is a lot higher than that of the H tendon. So it is able to cope with a lot more stress than the H tendon, and as previously mentioned as well, this is commonly due to the fact that the water content of an H tendon is much further decreased. So this will then allow the normal tendon to just not reach a failure point as early as an H tendon, and then be successful in providing the joint stability, flexibility and movement.
Thank you all very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed.